let's finish off this conversation in this episode with some talk about two players outside of Pittsburgh, because maybe, just maybe, they won't be outside of Pittsburgh for very long. A couple of high-profile 2022 draft picks are unhappy with their current situations, and according to Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet and 32 Thoughts, could be seeking a fresh start in a different city. The two players being Brad Lambert, forward of the Winnipeg Jets. He was the 30th overall pick in the 2022 NHL draft, currently 21 years old, and Pavel Mintyukov, a left shot defenseman of the Anaheim Ducks, the 10th overall selection in the 2022 NHL draft. As of right now, he's 21 years old. And I mean, this recording on November 25th, he will be 22 years old. So if that plays into your thought process here, let me know. But it's very simple. If you were Kyle Dubas, Horwat, would you go after one or both of Lambert and Mintyukov?
I see. It's a very interesting. Such a fascinating topic, because a lot of times you would think, yeah, absolutely, you have the opportunity to add to not necessarily your prospect pool, but your young pool of players, your group under 25. And that's a great place to continue adding and building for the future. As part of Kyle Dubas' mantra upon arrival was that, try and build a good team now and build a good team for the future. Mm-hmm. These are two guys that would absolutely be building for the future. But you don't want to, I don't even want to say you don't want to rock the boat too much by making those sort of jump decisions, because these are guys that are going to want to come in and I don't want to say expect to play in the NHL, but expect more opportunities than what they're being given, because that's what they're looking for. Especially if they're upset with their situations, they obviously want their opportunities at the NHL. And do they get that in Pittsburgh? Depending on what goes the other way, it's possible they don't. But it is a fascinating situation. I would say maybe you do for one of them. It doesn't hurt to add to your group under 25. It doesn't hurt to add to that group that could lean toward the future. But you don't want to, I almost wouldn't do both, just for the sake of, like I said, you don't want to rock the boat too much in terms of, are these guys going to come in and immediately look for chances, look for opportunities? Are there going to be opportunities there? If you bring in both, no, there's not, because it's only going to be likely a spot for one of them.
Yeah.
And it does depend on what's going the other way. The Penguins are in such a weird position, though. What do they want to get rid of? What do they want to keep? What do they want to build toward this year or maybe the future? So I would say if you do, you go for one. And I like the idea of going for one just because moves are entertaining. They are the entertaining part of the sport for us. So I would say one of them, sure, why not?
All right. So let me put this question to you. If you were to go for only one of them, are you going for Brad Lambert? Or are you going for Pavel Mintyukov?
I don't know.
The blue liner, or are you going for the forward?
If Chris Letang keeps this up, you go for the blue liner.
Even if he's a left shot?
Yes. You just filter out the blue line, you figure it out.
Yeah.
But I would say maybe you go for the forward, because I'm trying to think of the Penguins prospect pool. I don't know how many centers there are. And at least according to Hockey Reference, Brad Lambert is listed here as a center. So maybe you go for the forward, who you've made moves with Winnipeg before. You have that previous relationship there as well. And that's one less hurdle to cross, at least when it comes to, acquiring a prospect piece. But does Winnipeg expect another prospect piece in return? Much in way of the trade we discussed a week or two ago, the Jaeger-McGroarty move. But yeah, I would say if you go for one, go for the forward. Just it makes more sense to add to those centers. You have pretty good defensive prospects already.
Yeah, and you can never have too many forwards. I agree with that. Like I subscribe to that. Like the more forwards, the better, because you never know which ones are going to be able to score at the NHL level. Problem being, in my opinion, I look at Brad Lambert as somebody who had all the potential in the world to be, somebody who filled the back of the net very consistently at the NHL level. But you have to realize that potential at some point. Right, he's in his third professional season, and while at the AHL level, 30 goals in 143 games, it's not bad, right? It's something that hasn't transferred to the NHL level. He hasn't been able to stick, and you can make two comparisons when it comes to Brad Lambert. You can make the Rucker-McGroarty comparison, somebody who wasn't happy with the way that Winnipeg has tried to schedule out his development. But the difference being there is Rutger McGroarty made that decision and ended up getting traded before he even signed his ELC. Brad Lambert, like I mentioned, third pro year, he's in the last year of his ELC. So a decision is going to be have to be made there for Brad Lambert. I just don't know if you want another guy that is showing that, hey, in the AHL, he can play decent hockey, but hasn't been able to really find consistency at the NHL level. Part of that might be, where do you find a spot? Because Winnipeg's been one of the best hockey teams in the National Hockey League. But at the same time, it's still the same story. This guy has not been able to find consistent playing time with the Winnipeg Jets. On the other hand, I look at Pavel Mintyukov and I say, yes, the defense is getting a little bit better, but there is a hole right now in the Penguins' left side of defense when it comes to the prospect rankings, because we don't know what's going on with Emil Pieneniemi, right? That is a situation that is still unresolved. We still have not heard anything about that. He is not with the team right now. And that was a guy that when you looked at the left side, when it comes to prospects, you said, okay, Owen Pickering is AHL, NHL right on that bubble. You have Finn Harding, a guy who is stepping into pro hockey this year, and you're hoping can make some strides forward, but he's that second layer. And you also had Emil Pieneniemi, who was in that second layer. Now that Pieneniemi's gone and Owen Pickering has gotten off to an auspicious start at the NHL level to start this season, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a guy who, albeit just 22 years old, has now played in 3 seasons at the NHL level, and somebody who has shown over the past couple of years to be able to work on his defensive game. Because we always talk about it takes a little bit longer for defenders to develop. This guy had to come in at 19 years old, got a heck of a lot of playing time, 17 minutes a night as a 19-year-old for the Anaheim Ducks. He had a great rookie season. Then he had a sophomore slump, and now a sophomore slump has kind of bled into his third season, and now it's affecting his playing time because there's a lot of talented players. As we mentioned earlier, Anaheim's very good on that team. So if I'm going after any of them, I'm going to go after Mintyukov to, one, fill that spot in the prospect pool, and to, two, just bring in a little bit more competition on the left side of the defense. Because Ryan Shea got off to a good start, but are the wheels going to fall off? He's never played this much hockey this consistently with this against this level of competition as a second pairing defenseman. If that happens, are you going to move Ryan Graves up? He's been better, but are you willing to put him next to Letang and see if that dynamic works? Even though it didn't last year, it didn't 2 years ago. Or do you want to try something like an Owen Pickering or maybe a Pavel Mintyukov? Now, the big question, as you alluded to in all of this, is what's the acquisition price? Because even though he's struggling, Mintyukov was a top 10 pick just 3 years ago. He was a guy who was, I wouldn't say in the Calder conversation. I think he finished either somewhere between 10th and 15th in Calder voting, but he was also a defenseman on the Anaheim Ducks. They don't get a lot of trophy love down there in Southern California. And I don't think Pat Verbeek is just going to give up on him. So I'm curious as to what the acquisition cost would be. Certainly not trading a first, certainly not trading a second for a guy that has kind of had an extended sophomore slump. But I'm interested to see who they would be interested in Pittsburgh. And what that would have to be. But I think if I'm going to make the call and I'm going to go try to be active and go after one of them, I'm picking Mintyukov.
And I don't hate that for all the reasons you laid out. I did kind of forget about the Pieneniemi situation. So maybe even if this was to unfold, the defenseman pick does make more sense. It adds to the competition. It adds to fill holes. I quite enjoy the idea of another top 10 pick in a way. Filling up this prospect pool, adding a big name that has high expectations. Sure, there are some letdowns recently, but you carry that top 10 pick moniker for your whole career.
Yeah.
And there's still opportunity and there's still plenty of time for him to live up to it. So that's also a viable option, and you may have swayed me a bit on it as well.
Can I be completely honest as well?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I am not looking for a Brad Lambert trade right now is because man, I really want to see what Tristan Brose can do at the NHL level.
That's
Like,
fair too,
I don't
yeah.
want to, I don't want to put another hurdle in
Yeah.
front of Tristan Brose. And I also don't want to put another hurdle in front of Avery Hayes either. Like, let me see what these guys could do. If you bring in Brad Lambert, it just, it gets even more crowded. Like, it's crowded right now. Like right now, you know, Brose is fighting for an opportunity. Hayes is fighting for his first opportunity. McGroarty's fighting for his first opportunity of the season. So there's a lot of guys down there that a lot of people want to see, and I think are earning that chance. Bringing in another factor into that, selfishly, is something I don't want to see.